My daughter-in-law had been poisoning me for 20 months. I discovered this on November 15th, sitting in my recliner, pretending the drugs were still working. Laura thought I was half asleep when she whispered to my son, "We'll kick him out after Thanksgiving. I already called Whispering Pines. They have a bed ready." "Are you sure about this?" Kevin asked. "Look at him," she hissed, drooling like an idiot. "The pills work perfectly. Once he's committed, we get power of attorney, and this house is ours. $1,200,000 free and clear." Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I kept my breathing steady while rage burned in my chest. She had no idea I'd been dumping that coffee for weeks. No idea I'd recorded every word. If you've ever watched someone you trusted destroy your life while smiling to your face, you need to hear what happened next. Because sometimes the best revenge is letting evil people hang themselves with their own rope. The blood test results would change everything. But let me tell you how I got there. March 20th, 2022, the day after we buried my wife, Sophia. That's when it started. Laura had been so helpful during Sophia's final months, making my morning coffee, bringing it to my study with that concerned smile. "You need to keep your strength up, Dad," she'd say. And I believed her. God help me. I believed her. By May, something was wrong. Every morning around 10, I'd feel this crushing fatigue. My thoughts would get fuzzy. Words wouldn't come right. During family dinners, I'd lose track of conversations mid-sentence. "It's grief," Laura told the family. "And his age. Dad's 69 next year?" 68. I was 68, but I was too tired to correct her. The morning drowsiness became routine. Coffee at 8:30, brain fog by 10, nap by noon. Laura started accompanying me to doctor visits. "He's been so confused lately." She'd tell Doctor, "Harrison?" Then she'd squeeze my shoulder. "Tell him about forgetting to turn off the stove." "Dad." I hadn't forgotten anything. But sitting there groggy and disoriented, I couldn't form the words to argue. That's when the financial changes started. "Dad, you really shouldn't be handling your own accounts," Kevin said in July. "Laura found 3 unpaid bills on your counter. Bills I'd never seen. Bills that Laura must have pulled from my mailbox and scattered around. We're just looking out for you," she said, taking my checkbook. "Let me help with the monthly expenses." My pension was $4,500 a month. The house was paid off. Sophia and I had scrimped for decades to clear that mortgage. My expenses shouldn't have been more than $2,200 monthly. But somehow, I was always broke. "Where does my money go?" I asked Laura one morning in September. "Medications are expensive." "Dad, your Ambien alone is $95 monthly." Ambien. I'd never taken Ambien in my life. That was the first crack in their story. But the drugs kept my thoughts too scattered to investigate. By November, Laura was telling neighbors about my episodes. Mrs. Smith from next door started looking at me with pity. "I'm so sorry about Timothy," she told Laura at the mailbox. "Early onset dementia is heartbreaking. We're managing," Laura replied. "Some days are better than others." I wanted to scream that there was nothing wrong with my mind, but the words came out slurred. Confused, Laura would just smile sadly and guide me back inside. The isolation was systematic. My weekly poker game. Dad's not feeling up to it anymore. Book club at the library. Too overstimulating for him now. Even my brother David stopped visiting after Laura told him I'd become aggressive and unpredictable. It's safer if we limit his social interactions. She explained to Kevin. He gets agitated around people. Agitated. The only thing that agitated me was watching this woman steal my life piece by piece while everyone applauded her dedication. By December, she'd convinced my family I needed supervision. He left the gas burner on Tuesday. She told Kevin. A lie. And yesterday, I found him wandering the neighborhood in his pajamas. Another lie. But the timing was perfect. I'd stumbled downstairs around noon, still groggy from whatever she'd put in my coffee, and find concerned family members discussing my deterioration. Maybe we should look into memory care facilities, Laura suggested during Thanksgiving dinner, just for his safety. That's when I realized what the blood test results would change everything meant. Because 3 weeks earlier, on October 30th, I'd made a decision that saved my life. I'd started pretending to drink the coffee. It happened by accident. That morning, I'd knocked over the mug, reaching for my glasses. Laura quickly made a fresh cup, but I was already running late for what I thought was a doctor's appointment. Instead of drinking it, I grabbed my coat and left. 4 hours later, my mind was clearer than it had been in months. That evening, I did an experiment. I dumped the coffee in the kitchen sink when Laura wasn't looking, filled the mug with water, and pretended to drink. Then, I waited. No fatigue, no confusion. For the first time since March, I could think clearly. The next morning, same thing. And the next, within a week, I understood exactly what had been happening. The systematic drugging, the financial manipulation, the social isolation. Laura wasn't just stealing my money. She was stealing my identity, my competence, my right to exist as a thinking person. But I needed proof, real proof that would stand up in court and expose her to my family. That's when I drove to Best Buy and spent $99 on a digital recorder. Because if Laura thought she could gaslight a man who'd spent 38 years teaching literature, analyzing deception, studying character motivation, understanding how stories really work, she'd made a fatal miscalculation. I was about to become the author of her downfall. My plan required perfect timing. But first, I needed to document exactly what she was putting in my coffee every morning. The blood test was just the beginning. She had no idea I was recording every word when the real plan came out. November 4th, Monday morning. Laura thought I was in my usual drug-induced stupor, slumped in my chair with the empty coffee mug. The Sony recorder was tucked inside my cardigan pocket, red light blinking. The lawyer says we need medical documentation. She whispered to someone on her phone walking into the kitchen. 3 physicians stating he's mentally incompetent. I kept my eyes half closed, breathing slow and steady. Doctor, Harrison already signed off. Says Timothy shows clear signs of cognitive decline. I made sure to mention the gas burner incident and the wandering episode. Both complete fabrications. But Doctor, Harrison hadn't questioned them. Doctor, Carter from the memory clinic will see him next week. I've already briefed him about Timothy's condition. The 3rd signature should be easy. I found a neurologist who specializes in these cases. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about the house. This was about having me declared legally incompetent. Once we have the court order, everything transfers. The house, his pension, the life insurance payout from Sophia's death. Kevin doesn't suspect anything. He thinks we're being good caregivers. Life insurance. Sophia's $75,000 policy that I'd planned to leave to our grandson Alex for college. Laura's voice got clearer as she moved toward the living room. The property appraiser came yesterday while Kevin was at work. $1,200,000. Can you believe that almost $1.5 million for this old place? She paused, probably checking to make sure I was still asleep. The nursing home is perfect. Whispering Pines Memory Care. Once he's committed, we can visit twice a year and play the grieving family. Meanwhile, we sell the house and move to Arizona like we planned. Arizona. They'd been planning this for months. The beauty is, it's all legal. Power of attorney for an incompetent relative. The court will thank us for taking such good care of poor, confused Timothy that night, while Laura was at her book club. The same book club she told me was too stimulating for my condition. I searched her purse. Real estate listings for Phoenix condos. 3 of them, all bookmarked. Prices ranging from $500,000 to $700,000. A handwritten note. Close on house by January 15th. Move by February. But the most damning evidence was in a manila folder hidden behind her romance novels. Power of attorney documents already filled out, waiting for signatures. Medical commitment papers for Whispering Pines, dated December 10th, and a hand-drawn timeline in Laura's neat handwriting. November 1st to 15th. Secure medical opinions. November 16th to 25th. Thanksgiving normal. Don't upset Kevin. November 26th to 30th. File court papers. December 10th. Commitment. December 25th. POA hearing. January 15th. House closing. February 1st. Arizona. She'd planned my entire destruction like a business transaction. The next morning, I pretended to struggle with my oatmeal while Laura made her daily phone call. Doctor, Carter confirmed Timothy for November 10th. I told him about the bathroom accidents and the violent outbursts. Bathroom accidents, violent outbursts. The lies were getting more elaborate. Kevin's starting to ask questions, though. Last night, he said maybe Dad just needs different medication, not a nursing home. She paused, listening. I know. We're too close to back down now. I already put a deposit on the Phoenix condo. $25,000 down payment. $25,000 from where? Then I remembered my missing pension checks. The memory care facility wants $5,500 monthly. Insurance covers maybe half. But it doesn't matter. Once we sell the house, we're set for life. Set for life. On my life's work. On the home Sophia and I had built together. That afternoon. Laura brought me my coffee with extra sweetness. Here you go. Dad, your favorite. I watched her walk away, then carefully lifted the mug. In the bottom, white residue that hadn't fully dissolved. I wet my finger and tasted it. Bitter? Chalky? Definitely not sugar. I poured the coffee into a mason jar I'd hidden behind my chair, sealed it tight, and labeled it with the date. Evidence sample number 1. The next morning, same routine. Laura crushed something into my coffee while she thought I was reading the newspaper. This time, I saw her palm a pill bottle before dropping it back in her purse. Sample number 2 went into another jar. By November 8th, I had 5 samples and 52 minutes of recorded conversations. Laura had unknowingly confessed to drugging me, forging medical reports, stealing my pension money, and planning to commit me against my will. But the most chilling recording came November 10th. The best part is Timothy will never know what hit him. She told her accomplice. I still didn't know who was on the other end of these calls. By the time he realizes what's happening, he'll be locked in memory care with no legal rights. Even if he tries to tell anyone, who's going to believe a demented old man? She laughed, actually laughed. Honestly, it's almost a mercy. What quality of life does he have anyway? Sitting around feeling sorry for himself since Sophia died. At least this way, his death will fund something useful. My death. She was already planning my death. That's when I knew I wasn't just fighting for my house or my money. I was fighting for my life. And the recording device captured every word. My plan required perfect timing. But first, I had to make a choice that would change everything. November 11th, Tuesday morning. I sat in my study, staring at 5 mason jars of drugged coffee and a digital recorder full of Laura's confessions. The evidence was damning, but I needed more than her word against mine. I needed medical proof. The appointment with Dr. Carter was in 2 days. Laura's hand-picked neurologist, who would rubber stamp my mental incompetence. If I showed up confused and disoriented, as expected, he'd sign the papers that would lock me away forever. But if I showed up completely lucid, Laura would know her drug scheme had failed. That's when I realized the beautiful simplicity of my situation. Laura had given me the perfect cover story for my own investigation. I called Dr. Emily Rodriguez's office. She'd been Sophia's oncologist, someone who actually knew me before Laura's campaign of destruction. I'd like to schedule some private blood work, I told her nurse. Comprehensive toxicology screening. Is this related to your current treatment? Mr. Miller. No, I said carefully. I have some concerns about medications I may have been given without my knowledge. Dr. Rodriguez agreed to see me that afternoon, during her lunch break, away from her regular office. Timothy. She said when I walked into the private lab, "You look remarkably well for someone with advancing dementia." That's because I don't have dementia. Emily. I have a daughter-in-law with a pill crusher and a real estate scheme. Her expression shifted from confusion to alarm as I explained the 20-month timeline, the morning coffee routine, the systematic isolation, the forged medical reports. I need you to test my blood for sedatives, I said, and I need documentation that my cognitive function is normal. She drew 3 vials of blood and spent 30 minutes administering cognitive tests. Memory recall, pattern recognition, problem-solving exercises. Timothy, your test scores are in the 95th percentile for your age group. There's nothing wrong with your mind. Then why do I feel foggy and confused every morning after coffee? Because someone is drugging you, she said grimly. These blood samples will tell us what and how much. While we waited for the lab results, I made my second crucial decision. I drove to Best Buy and purchased a Wise security camera for $45. Tiny thing, no bigger than a golf ball with wireless capability and smartphone alerts. That evening, while Laura was at Kevin's parent-teacher conference for Alex, I installed it behind the bread box on my kitchen counter. Perfect angle to capture the coffee maker and whoever used it. The next morning, I pretended to shuffle downstairs late, playing the confused old man role while the camera recorded Laura's routine. 8:47 a.m. Laura enters kitchen, starts coffee maker. 8:49 a.m. Retrieves pill bottle from purse. Crushes 2 tablets with back of spoon. 8:51 a.m. Stirs crushed pills into my coffee mug. Adds extra cream to mask the taste. 8:52 a.m. Brings coffee to my study with concerned smile. Here's your morning coffee. Dad. All captured in high-definition video. By noon, Dr. Rodriguez called with the blood results. Timothy, you have 3.1 milligrams of zolpidem in your system. That's a full therapeutic dose of Ambien taken daily for months. It would cause exactly the symptoms you've described. Memory problems, confusion, drowsiness, difficulty with speech. Is that enough to prove I'm being poisoned? It's enough to put someone in prison. That afternoon, I made copies of everything. Blood test results, video footage, audio recordings, Laura's timeline, the fake medical reports. One set went in my safe deposit box at First National. Another went to my attorney, Susan Patel, with a sealed letter explaining the situation. If anything happens to me, I told Susan, if I'm suddenly committed to a nursing home or declared incompetent, open this envelope and call the police. Susan looked confused. Timothy, you seem completely lucid to me. That's because I am. But tomorrow, I'm going to start the performance of my lifetime. My appointment with Dr. Carter was November 13th. Laura expected me to arrive drugged, confused, easy to manipulate into a dementia diagnosis. Instead, I would give her exactly what she wanted while recording every lie she told. Because sometimes the best way to expose a liar is to let them think they're winning. The next morning, I drank the coffee. All of it. Laura's drugs hit my system like a freight train. But this time, I was ready for them. And this time, I had witnesses who knew I was acting. Thanksgiving morning would be her last, but she had no idea the trap was already closing. November 13th. The appointment that was supposed to seal my fate became the beginning of Laura's downfall. I arrived at Dr. Carter's office exactly as she planned, groggy, confused, stumbling slightly from the double dose of zolpidem I'd forced myself to drink that morning. But hidden in my jacket pocket, the digital recorder was capturing every word. Dr. Carter, this is my father-in-law, Timothy, Laura said, guiding me to a chair like I was helpless. As I mentioned on the phone, his condition has deteriorated rapidly. Dr. Carter was younger than I'd expected, maybe 45, with the kind of smooth confidence that comes from rubber-stamping difficult family decisions. Tell me about his symptoms, he said, not even looking at me. Memory loss, confusion, wandering episodes. Yesterday, he asked me 4 times what year it was. He's becoming aggressive when we try to help him. I sat there, letting my head droop, occasionally mumbling incoherently. The perfect picture of advancing dementia. Has he had any violent outbursts just last week? He threw a coffee mug at me. screamed that I was trying to poison him. Laura's voice carried just the right note of long-suffering patience. The paranoia is getting worse. Doctor? Carter nodded sympathetically. Classic presentation. Mr. Miller? Can you tell me what month this is? I stared blankly at him, then looked around the room with manufactured confusion. Where are we? It's November. Timothy, Laura said softly. We're at the doctor's office. Remember? For 20 minutes, I gave the performance of my life, stumbling over simple questions, forgetting Laura's name mid-sentence, asking repeatedly why we were there. Doctor. Carter took notes, occasionally exchanging knowing glances with Laura. I'm sorry to say this confirms what you suspected, he told her. Moderate to severe cognitive impairment. I'll prepare the documentation for memory care placement. How quickly can we move forward? Laura asked. His safety is our primary concern. I can have the papers ready by Friday. Whispering Pines is an excellent facility. Perfect. Everything was falling into place exactly as she'd planned, except I was recording every fraudulent word. That evening, while Laura celebrated with Kevin over dinner, the doctor says Dad needs specialized care now. I uploaded the video footage to my laptop. 20 separate mornings of Laura crushing pills into my coffee. Clear, undeniable evidence of systematic poisoning. I burned copies onto 3 different drives and mailed one to my brother David in Denver with a note. Open this if I disappear. November 16th brought Laura's most damaging confession yet. I was pretending to nap in my chair when she made another phone call, this time pacing the living room freely, believing I was too drugged to understand. The commitment papers are signed. December 10th. We drive him to Whispering Pines and walk away. She paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. No, Kevin doesn't know about the house sale. I told him we're just looking into options for Dad's care. He thinks we'll visit every week and bring Alex for holidays. Another pause. Are you kidding? Once Timothy is locked up, we're gone. Kevin can visit his demented father alone if he wants. We'll be in Phoenix by February, and Alex can spend summers with us instead of wasting time in this dusty wasteland. My grandson. She was planning to separate Alex from his grandfather permanently. The beauty is, it's all legal. Power of attorney lets me sell everything. The pension gets redirected to pay for his care. And if he dies in that place, which honestly wouldn't be the worst thing, we inherit everything free and clear. She actually said it out loud, hoped for my death while I sat 10 feet away. 20 months of planning, but it's finally paying off. By New Year's, we'll be millionaires. That night, I called Detective Lisa Green at Dallas PD. Susan Patel had recommended her as someone who specialized in elder abuse cases. Detective Green, I need to report a crime in progress. Multiple felonies involving elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy. Sir, can you come in and file a formal complaint? I can do better than that. I can provide video evidence, audio recordings, and medical documentation of a 20-month drugging scheme. 24 hours later, I sat in Detective Green's office with manila folders full of evidence, blood tests showing deliberate poisoning, video footage of Laura crushing pills, audio recordings of her admitting to fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Mr. Miller, this is one of the most comprehensive elder abuse cases I've ever seen. Your daughter-in-law is facing serious felony charges. I want her arrested but I need you to wait until November 26th. Detective Green looked puzzled. Why the delay? Because Laura has one more performance scheduled. Thanksgiving morning. She's going to tell my family that I'm too far gone to stay home. She's going to show them the nursing home commitment papers and explain how she's been protecting everyone from my dangerous behavior. You want your family to hear her lies before we arrest her. I want my son to understand exactly who he married. And I want Laura to believe she's won, right up until the handcuffs click. Detective Green smiled grimly. We'll be ready. November 17th. Laura made her final mistake. She brought home real estate documents for the house sale, leaving them on the kitchen counter while she ran errands. Sale price: $1 million to Harrison Development Group. Closing date: November 29th, just 4 days after Thanksgiving. She'd already sold our family home. But what Laura didn't know was that I'd been busy too, making my own calls, arranging my own transactions. She chose the wrong day to make her final move. Thanksgiving morning, 2023. Laura woke up early, humming while she made breakfast, probably thinking about her new Arizona condo. She had no idea this would be the last morning she'd spend as a free woman. Coffee's ready, Dad, she called, bringing me the usual drugged cup. I took it gratefully, made a show of sipping it slowly, while Laura bustled around, preparing for Kevin and Alex's arrival. What she didn't see was me pouring most of it into the potted plant beside my chair, the same plant that had been slowly dying for weeks from her daily poison doses. By 10 a.m. Kevin and Alex arrived with presents and forced holiday cheer. My 13-year-old grandson gave me a careful hug, the kind you give someone you think is fragile and confused. Hi, Grandpa, he said softly. Mom says you're not feeling very good. I'm feeling better than I have in months, I told him, which made Laura shoot me a sharp look. Dad's having one of his clearer moments, she explained quickly. They come and go now, during gift opening. Laura kept checking her watch. She had a timeline to follow, papers to present, a family to convince. At 11:30, she made her move. Kevin, can I talk to you privately in the kitchen? Alex was distracted with his new video game, so I followed quietly, staying just around the corner where I could hear everything. Your father had another episode Monday night, Laura began. He was wandering the neighborhood at 2 a.m. in his underwear. Mrs. Smith had to call me. Another lie. I'd been asleep in my bed at 2 a.m. Monday. I didn't want to ruin Thanksgiving, but we can't wait any longer. Doctor, Carter says Timothy needs immediate placement. The rustle of papers. She was showing Kevin the commitment documents. Whispering Pines has a bed available, December 10th. I've already filled out the paperwork. Laura, this seems so sudden. Kevin, look at these incident reports. More paper shuffling, violent outbursts, bathroom accidents, leaving the stove on 3 separate times. I've been protecting you from how bad it's gotten. All fabricated. Every single incident. What about the house? We'll have to sell it. Of course. The memory care facility costs $5,500 monthly, even with his pension and insurance. We'll need the equity to cover his care. Kevin's voice was uncertain. How long do these facilities, I mean, what's the average stay? Laura's tone went gentle. Sympathetic? Honey. People with your father's condition don't typically live more than 4 to 6 years. But at least he'll be safe and properly medicated. Properly medicated. She was already planning to drug me into oblivion permanently. I know this is hard, she continued. But think about Alex. Do you want him remembering his grandfather as a confused, angry old man? Better to preserve the good memories. That's when I stepped into the kitchen. What good memories would those be? Laura. She spun around, startled. Dad, you should be resting. 20 months of good memories. Like when you told everyone I had bathroom accidents. Or when you claimed I threw a coffee mug at you. Laura's face went pale. Kevin, your father is having another episode. Or maybe the good memory of you crushing Ambien into my coffee every morning since March. Kevin looked between us. Confused? Dad? What are you talking about? I reached into my cardigan pocket and pulled out the digital recorder. I'm talking about this, I said, pressing play. Laura's voice filled the kitchen. The beauty is, it's all legal. Power of attorney for an incompetent relative. The court will thank us for taking such good care of poor, confused Timothy. Kevin's face went white. Laura, what is that? I fast-forwarded to another clip. Once he's committed, we can visit twice a year and play the grieving family. Meanwhile, we sell the house and move to Arizona like we planned. This is fake, Laura said quickly. Kevin, your father is delusional. Another clip. The pills work perfectly. Once he's locked up, we're gone. Kevin stared at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Laura, you've been drugging him. Of course not. This is exactly what I mean about his paranoid delusions. I pulled out my phone and showed them the video footage. Laura, clear as day, crushing pills with the back of a spoon and stirring them into my coffee. November 14th, 8:49 a.m. I said calmly. November 15th, same time. I have 20 different videos. Kevin, your wife has been systematically poisoning me for a year and a half. Laura grabbed for my phone. This is ridiculous. Don't touch him, Kevin said sharply, stepping between us. I pulled out the blood test results. Doctor, Rodriguez ran a full toxicology panel. 3.1 milligrams of zolpidem. That's a full dose of Ambien taken daily for months. Laura's composure finally cracked. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Your father was depressed, barely functional. So you decided to make it worse. I was trying to help. The confusion? The memory problems? That was just the grief talking. The medication calmed him down. The medication nearly destroyed me, I said quietly. And you were going to lock me away forever so you could steal my house. Kevin picked up the commitment papers Laura had left on the counter. December 10th. You already scheduled it for his own good for $1,200,000, I interrupted. The exact amount you got for selling my house to Harrison Development. The silence stretched until Alex wandered into the kitchen, still holding his new game. Why is everyone so quiet? He asked. And why is Mom crying? Because sometimes even the best liars eventually run out of lies. But the real surprise was still coming. Kevin stood frozen in the kitchen, holding the commitment papers while Laura sobbed at the table. Alex looked between the adults, sensing the terrible shift in his family's world. Laura, Kevin said slowly, how long have you been planning ours? As I answered for her. 20 months, since the day after we buried Sophia. I opened my manila folder and spread the evidence across the kitchen table like a prosecutor presenting to a jury. Here's her timeline, written in her own handwriting. November 26th. File court papers. December 10th. Commitment. January 15th. House closing. February 1st. Arizona. Kevin picked up Laura's planning document, his hands shaking. You've already put a deposit on a condo. $25,000 down payment, I said, paid for with my stolen pension checks. Laura finally looked up. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. You don't understand what it's been like taking care of him, dealing with his depression, taking care of me. I pulled out my bank statements. You've stolen $55,000 from my accounts in the past year. That's not caregiving. That's embezzlement. Kevin, please show him the medical reports, I said quietly. I placed Dr. Carter's fraudulent dementia diagnosis next to Dr. Rodriguez's cognitive assessment. Perfect scores on every test dated 3 days apart. 2 doctors. 2 completely different conclusions. Want to guess which one Laura coached? Kevin read both documents, his face growing darker. Doctor, Carter never actually examined you. Did he 20-minute performance based entirely on Laura's lies? She told him I was violent, paranoid, dangerous. I was protecting everyone. Laura burst out. You were scaring Alex with your strange behavior. What strange behavior? Alex interrupted, looking confused. Grandpa's been fine. You're the one who said he was sick. From the mouths of babes, I played another recording. The paranoia is getting worse. Yesterday, he threw a coffee mug at me. I never threw anything, I said calmly. But Laura needed documented incidents of violence for the commitment hearing. Kevin was pacing now, putting pieces together. The wandering episode you told me about never happened. The stove, left on fiction. The bathroom accidents, complete fabrication. Each lie Kevin named, I calmly debunked with evidence. Audio recordings, video footage, medical tests, 20 months of systematic deception, documented and undeniable. But why Kevin finally asked his wife? Dad would have helped us if we'd just asked. He always has. Laura's mask slipped completely. Help us what? Scrape by in this miserable house forever. Watch you work at that factory until your back gives out. I'm 35 years old. Kevin, I deserve better than this. There it was. The truth behind all the lies. Better than what I asked. A family that loves you. A home with no mortgage. A husband who works 60 hours a week to support you. Better than being poor, she screamed. Better than pretending your little professor pension and your dead wife's insurance money were going to solve our problems. Alex stepped closer to me, instinctively understanding who the real threat was. Mom, why are you saying mean things about Grandma Sophia? Laura ignored him. You have no idea what it's like being married to failure. Watching other families have nice things while we live paycheck to paycheck. We weren't living paycheck to paycheck, Kevin said quietly. You were spending everything I made, plus Dad's money, on things we didn't need. I pulled out the final piece of evidence. The credit card statements I'd copied from Laura's purse. $18,000 on clothes and jewelry. $10,000 on spa treatments and salon visits. $7,000 on restaurants and entertainment, all charged to cards in my name with forged signatures. Kevin stared at the statements. Laura, what is this? But she was already moving toward the door, grabbing her purse and keys. I'm not staying here to be attacked by a demented old man and his enabler son. She said, You're not going anywhere, I said calmly. Detective Lisa Green is waiting for you outside. Laura froze. What? I called the police 3 days ago. They're parked in front of the house right now, waiting for my signal. Through the kitchen window, we could see the unmarked police car in the driveway. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting justice take its course. The house sale was already in motion, but Laura had no idea who the real buyer was. Detective Green's knock came exactly 30 seconds after I texted her. Through the front window, I watched Laura's face cycle through panic, calculation, and desperate defiance. Mr. Miller, Detective Green said as I opened the door. We're ready to proceed. She was a compact woman in her 40s, with the kind of steady authority that comes from handling difficult cases. Behind her stood Officer Ramirez and a crime scene photographer. Laura Jenkins Miller, Detective Green said formally, You're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit involuntary commitment. This is insane. Laura backed toward the kitchen. Kevin, tell them your father is delusional. You have the right to remain silent. Detective Green continued, pulling out handcuffs. Laura made one last desperate play. Officer, I'm this man's primary caregiver. He has severe dementia and has been making wild accusations. Ma'am, we've reviewed 20 months of evidence. Video footage of you crushing pills into his coffee. Audio recordings of you admitting to drugging him. Medical documentation proving systematic poisoning. The photographer was already taking pictures of my evidence spread across the kitchen table. These recordings could be fabricated, Laura said, her voice rising. Kevin, you know I would never hurt your father. Detective Green played a clip from my recorder. Once he's committed, we can visit twice a year and play the grieving family. Laura's shoulders sagged. That's taken out of context. What context makes drugging an elderly man acceptable? Officer Ramirez asked. Kevin finally spoke up. Detective, I had no idea any of this was happening. Laura told me Dad was getting worse, that he needed professional care. Mr. Miller, the younger Mr. Miller, Detective Green clarified. You're not under investigation. Our evidence shows you were deceived along with your father. Alex had been standing silently by my side, watching his mother get handcuffed. When Laura looked at him with desperate eyes, he moved closer to me. Grandpa, he whispered, were you really sick? No, buddy, I was never sick. Your mom was putting medicine in my coffee that made me sleepy and confused. Why would she do that? Because sometimes adults make terrible choices for money. Instead, I just hugged him tighter. Detective Green was reading Laura her Miranda rights, while Officer Ramirez documented the crime scene. The pill crusher still sitting in the kitchen drawer. The mason jars of drugged coffee I'd saved as evidence. The commitment papers with forged signatures. The district attorney will be filing formal charges tomorrow. Detective Green told me elder abuse in the first degree, fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and theft. She's looking at 4 to 8 years in state prison. What about the house sale? Kevin asked suddenly. That's when I smiled. For the first time in 20 months. Funny thing about that, I said, Laura did sell the house to Harrison Development. Signed all the papers Monday morning while you were at work. Kevin looked confused. But how can they arrest her if the sale was legal? Because, I continued, Harrison Development is owned by my attorney, Susan Patel. The sale was designed to prevent Laura from profiting from her crimes. Detective Green looked impressed. You set up a sting operation I knew she'd try to close before I could be committed. So Susan created a shell company, made a legitimate offer, and Laura signed over the deed, thinking she was about to become rich. Laura stared at me in horror. You can't do that. The house is legally mine through power of attorney. Power of attorney obtained through fraud is invalid, Detective Green said. The sale is void, but we already spent the down payment. Laura screamed. The Arizona condo will be repossessed, I said calmly, along with everything else you bought with my stolen money. As they led Laura toward the police car, she turned back one last time. You'll never be able to take care of yourself, she shouted. You need me. I looked at my son, my grandson, the police officers treating me with respect and dignity. Then I looked at Laura. The only thing I needed, I said, was for you to stop poisoning me. The car door slammed shut, and Laura Jenkins Miller disappeared from our lives forever. But the biggest surprise was still waiting in my study. The final lesson was about to begin. Laura spent Thanksgiving night in Dallas County Jail, probably thinking her lawyer would sort out the misunderstanding by morning. She had no idea that while she sat in a cell, I was making the phone calls that would complete her destruction. November 26th, 9 a.m. I drove to Susan Patel's law office with Kevin and Alex. Timothy, Susan said, the Harrison Development sale is officially void as of this morning. The property reverts to your ownership. Good, I said. Now I want to make a real sale. I handed her a manila folder. Contact information for the Texas Dementia Foundation. I want to deed the house to them as a charitable donation in Sophia's memory. Kevin looked shocked. Dad, you don't have to do that. Yes, I do. I pulled out Sophia's photo from my wallet. Your mother spent her last months worrying about my future, afraid I'd be alone and vulnerable. This way. Her memory funds research that might prevent other families from going through what we did. Susan reviewed the documentation. The house appraised at $1,200,000 after taxes. The donation will be worth approximately $1 million to the foundation. Perfect. I want it finalized today. That's incredibly generous. Timothy, where will you live? I smiled. Golden Horizons, Senior Living. I toured it yesterday. Independent living apartments, community activities, weekly poker games. Sophia would have loved it there. By noon, the deed transfer was complete. The Texas Dementia Foundation now owned my family home, with plans to sell it and fund research grants in Sophia Miller's name. November 27th, Laura's arraignment. I attended with Kevin sitting in the gallery while she faced Judge Anderson. Your Honor, Laura's public defender said, my client was acting as a devoted caregiver to an elderly man with dementia. Counselor, Judge Anderson interrupted. I've reviewed the evidence. Video footage of your client systematically drugging the alleged victim. Audio recordings of her admitting to a 20-month fraud scheme. Medical documentation proving the victim has no cognitive impairment whatsoever. Laura stood in her orange jumpsuit, finally understanding that her lies wouldn't work in a courtroom. How does your client plead to charges of elder abuse in the first degree? Fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Not guilty, Your Honor. Judge Anderson set bail at $75,000, money Laura no longer had access to. After the hearing, Detective Green found me in the hallway. Mr. Miller, I wanted you to know the Arizona Condo Company is cooperating fully. They'll return Laura's down payment as soon as the criminal charges are resolved. I don't want the money back. I said, donate it to elder abuse prevention programs. You're sure? Detective, I'm 69 years old with no children except Kevin and no grandchildren except Alex. I have everything I need. That afternoon, Kevin helped me pack my belongings for the move to Golden Horizons. Dad, I'm so sorry, he said for the 100th time. I should have known what she was doing. Son, Laura fooled medical professionals, police officers, and half the neighborhood. She was very good at lying. How did you figure it out? I held up Sophia's photo. Your mother taught literature for 35 years. She always said the best way to spot a liar is to pay attention to their contradictions. Laura's story had holes you could drive a truck through once I was sober enough to notice them. We loaded the last box into Kevin's truck just as a car pulled into the driveway. It was Laura's sister from Oklahoma, looking confused and angry. Where is Laura? She demanded. She was supposed to meet us in Arizona this weekend. Kevin and I exchanged glances. She's going to be delayed, I said politely. About 48 years, depending on her sentence. Sometimes the truth is the cruelest gift you can give someone. April 10th, 2024. Laura pleaded guilty to avoid a lengthy trial. I sat in the courtroom gallery watching Judge Anderson deliver her sentence. 5 years in state prison, $75,000 in restitution, and a permanent restraining order preventing her from contacting me or Alex. Your actions represent a particularly cruel form of elder abuse. Judge Anderson said, you systematically poisoned a grieving widower, stole his money, and attempted to have him permanently institutionalized for your financial gain. Laura's shoulders shook as she accepted the sentence. No more Arizona dreams. No more stolen pension checks. No more crushing pills into coffee. Kevin filed for divorce the same week. Full custody of Alex with Laura having no visitation rights until her release. Today I'm sitting in my apartment at Golden Horizons, sharp as ever at 69. Alex visits every Sunday, and we read books together, the same way Sophia and I used to with Kevin 40 years ago. I volunteer 3 days a week at the Texas Dementia Foundation, sharing my story with other families. The research grant funded by Sophia's House has already helped develop new early detection methods. Laura gets out in 2030. By then, Alex will be 17, old enough to understand exactly who his mother really was. Some people think revenge is about anger, but the sweetest revenge is simply living well, surrounded by people who genuinely care about you. Justice served, memory preserved. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of the story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.